most of the people in my life are white people. You're prioritizing your empathy, and it's fucked up. Like, stop doing that. That's... Today, I want to have a conversation about blackness. About my blackness, about my sister's blackness, about my father's blackness, about my grandmother's blackness, about how when you're black it affects almost every facet of your life, whether you know it or not. Sometimes the most frustrating thing is when you're wondering if it was your race that played a part. And then comes gaslighting and dismissiveness and excuses. Whether you're one of my old subscribers who saw me only talking about raw food, health food, and getting your body right, whether you're one of my new subscribers who sees me talking about literally everything, whether you're a family member, a friend, someone I went to school with, someone I worked with, someone I met in an Uber, my blackness has affected every facet of my life. My first YouTube channel I started because my father passed away of liver cancer, which was due to complications of having hepatitis and not knowing it for years and years because he was afraid to go to the hospital. Anyway, I started that channel because I became obsessed with becoming healthy and specifically black people getting healthy. I started answering questions, I think we called it Ask the Vegan Chef. It was a way for me to, number one, learn myself through answering all these questions, educate myself, and also just be someone specifically there for black people because that's who I felt needed my help the most. It wasn't like, I just want to help everyone. No, I specifically saw the black community suffering from all these health problems that are being affected and pushed down because of all these other systems. Now I've restarted YouTube because a little over a year ago, my little sister went missing. I'm not gonna go into that huge right now. That's a whole video in itself. But because she was a black, autistic, bisexual woman, she got no investigation. She got no love, really was it was. She got no justice. There were like mystery theater type elements popping up surrounding her disappearance, and the cops basically would write them off as like, oh, that person that was talking to her online in this grooming, textbook grooming language, that was probably just a credit card scammer. You know, they try and get information from people to steal their credit cards. 6 months of information, over 167 pages of handwritten information. There's no doubt in my mind if my little sister had been white, straight, she would be all over the news. Racism really starts in my family, as far as I know. Like, because I can only speak really for my dad who made me. He always talked about how his mother, she would tell him to make sure and basically be palatable to the white people, you know? Never be too loud, don't look people in the eyes, talk like them, get on their good side. She was not wrong. It was wrong, but she was not wrong. That's called survivalism. So I don't know how much she instilled that in all of her kids, but I know that in my dad and his brother, that was something that was a big deal for them. And it might have been because of her older children, because I don't know if they got that same talk. Anyway, it's definitely affected my dad and his brother, clearly. Like, you could see it. They both married white women. In the end, at least. My camera cut off, I don't know where I was. We were talking about my grandma. I don't remember what age they were when they got their first piano, but even though my grandma was a proponent of whitewashing herself, in a sense, there's something to be said for the fact that she stoked all these fires of creativity in the form of letting my dad and his brother and all their friends openly and loudly play all the music they ever wanted in her house while my grandpa was at work at the junkyards. My grandpa was king of the junkyards. I'm going to insert a little article here. He was literally the king of the junkyards, and I'm not upset about it. So while all this madness was going around, he was born in 1949. Him and his friends were escaping into music, and a huge part of that was my grandma giving them a space to do that. So while she understood that it was smarter to know how to whitewash yourself, she knew how important Black culture was. He's the type of person that wouldn't necessarily talk about something, but if you asked him, he would tell you the whole novel, and he would bring all the parts into it and all the aspects. My dad was a very smart man. He was very compassionate. He was so kind. I think I will start the series of stories that I want to tell this week with one of the first I can remember, which is my dad talking up this burger joint in Portland, burger joint called Roke's. And he told us it was the best burger joint, the fries there. He strived to make fries like Roke's. He was like a mad scientist in the kitchen trying to recreate these Roke's fries. He told us what good memories he has of this place from his youth. He was born and raised in Portland. So the day comes where we go to Roke's. So my sister and him and I load up in his butterscotch Buick LeSabre, and we head to Roke's. If I remember correctly, Roke's is, at least back then, this was probably I was born in 87. By the way, I'm 32 years old, so don't let this fool you. I am 3 decades old. I was probably like 10 or 11, so like 97, 98, Portland. We pull up to Roke's in his butterscotch Buick LeSabre. It's kind of like on a I feel like it was on a road where there wasn't like anything across the street. It seemed kind of like I could be remembering that wrong. But anyway, it seemed kind of like there was no one around. And there was surely no one at the restaurant at that time. It must have been, like not a peak hour. Probably not a peak day. It was probably like a Wednesday or some shit. We get out and we go up to place our order, which we do. There's a white dude at the counter. He's probably 30 some years old. I have little kids goggles on, so everything's like a little skewed. 32-year-old white dude, buzz cut, chewing on something. I remember that. He takes our order. Now I don't really remember like how he was acting before, like when he was taking our order. I think I was too excited looking at the menu, fucking with my little sister, looking at my dad excited. We sit there. There's like some benches in front to eat outside. We sit there and we're waiting for our order. Given we're the only ones here. We order, I remember very specifically, because my dad kept talking up these blackberry milkshakes because he's a huge fan of seasonal milkshakes. It was like one of his things. We get 3 of them. 3 milkshakes, 3 burgers, 3 sets of fries. I gotta tell y'all, I have been a burger cook, okay? You could get that order out, 3 burgers, and I know we didn't ask for any sort of like medium rare, well done, because Black people don't tend to do that, okay? That's a whole nother story. 3 burgers, 3 shakes, 3 fries. We're there for at least 30 minutes before my dad says anything. I'm a kid at this point. If the grown-up's not saying anything, I'm not worried most of the time. So my dad goes up by himself, very calmly, very peacefully, to the window. There's no one there. He leans his head in. Eventually the guy comes, and my dad's like, probably like, hey, I can't hear what he's saying, but he's probably like, hey, where's my stuff? And at this point, my little sister and I are definitely paying attention. He comes back to us. His face is different, but he says, it's coming. But like, little kids know the truth, right? In that breath, I knew that like our food might not be coming. Like, I think our food might not be coming. And that like instant when he said, our food's coming, I thought, no, it's not. It probably is. That was like such a like newborn child coming out, like Plato's allegory, the cave, sort of coming out of like, this is a thing in the world, for reals? Like, this is a thing that happens? Like, with grown-ups around? Because before then I had experienced racism, but it was just by myself, like as a kid. To have that happen to my dad, who is the strongest, softest, sweetest, most creative, most well-spoken, most humble person that anyone knows, was just like, it was like a nightmare. Like, you realize this is an option in my life. This is something that could happen. A grown-up who's not even near the age of my father is disrespecting him in this way, to this extent, in front of his kids. Like, we're trying to give you our money. Some more time went by. I can't tell you how much because it was so tense. The guy came to the window, looked at my dad. My dad looked back at him, and he said, "Come on, girls, let's go." I didn't say shit. I completely understood what was going on. My little sister, bless her heart, in the most honest way that only she could have been, was like, "Why?" And she was so sad. She was so sad. And that made me even more sad. And then we had to talk about it with my dad, and he should have been a college professor. Like, it should have been just like school with Johnny, and then you get to go in and learn something about life. It was so sad. I was less angry than I was just like sad for life, for humans. It was not a good taste of what I would be getting in the world. I'm someone who's been a lot of places. I'm like a military brat whose parents weren't actually in the military. I've lived pretty much everywhere in Oregon. I've lived in big city Oregon. I've lived in small town Oregon. I've lived in Hippiesville, Oregon. I've lived in Cowboy Desert, Oregon. I've lived in Nowheresville, Oregon, that you needed a jet boat to reach. Besides that, I've lived in Salt Lake City. I've lived in small town Utah, rich people Utah, Nashville, Tennessee. I've lived in Montana. I've been a few places. Can I tell you that I may be into some geekier things, but when I'm walking down the street at 4 o'clock in the morning in Salt Lake City by myself to go work my ass off, and a 7-foot tall white man who's like 400 pounds yells dirty at me from across the street, I kind of feel like with my finger on the trigger, rolling in the glass house, feeling that's the thing. You don't realize that blackness doesn't, your level of blackness does not matter to someone who actually hates black people. They're not gonna actually, you're the only ones doing that. You fucking people who say you're woke and shit, when you try and quantize my blackness, like, you're not getting it. You're not getting it. I feel like we know who we're talking to right now. Can we be honest in that? We feel like for a lot of you, you already, like, you know this stuff, but the people who need to hear it. I made a list last night at like 2 o'clock in the morning. It's like, well, maybe I'll just write down the racist things that happened to me and like maybe pick the biggest ones and like tell people about it, because I don't tell people about these things. Like, nobody asked. But I feel like if I can bring you into my world and show you what I experience as a pretty pale black person with a Karen-like voice, you think you know what it is to be black, but you do not. So that's what we're gonna be talking about this week. I was gonna save my grandma Mildred's story for tomorrow, but I felt like it was appropriate. A few things I wrote down last night that I'd like to share right now, just to like get them off my chest. So you could just start here. You could really just start here. Stop talking to black people differently, Stop doing that. If you haven't said "my man" for the 365 days that you didn't see a black person, don't say, you know what I'm saying? Don't say that if you don't normally say that. Don't change your tone. Like, nope, like, stop using black culture as conversation starters with black people. Like, it's stupid. And it's really fucking, like, apparent. It's very obvious. You are seeing me as someone you can't relate to besides through black culture. Like, what? I have a life. Stop talking to us about Michelle Obama, all right? Stop doing it. Like, she's beautiful. She's an angel. We all know it. We know. She's great. She's the best. And lastly, at least for now, stop asking to touch my hair. Like, stop doing it. You're gonna be upset because it's not like that slime y'all touch. It's not like that. It's not like a fidget spinner. It's not like that. It's not like a corn stalk. It doesn't, what do you think you're gonna like? At this point, I'm convinced it's some sort of like white ritual, like some sort of deep secret white ritual that I didn't learn about because my white grandma was very liberal. And so I didn't learn any of those like white mysteries, So yeah, all throughout the week, I just kind of want to share my stories of racism because apparently there is more than a week's worth of content. And I don't really stop and think about it until I write them all down because it's just so fucking normal. That's another thing I want to talk about. If you don't see me crying or fucking super aggressive, if you don't see me down at the rallies with the fucking cops leaving fucking pallets of bricks around, if you don't see me there, it's because this shit is not new for me or any other black person. This is not new. Nobody's shocked in the black community. Nobody's shocked. I see your faces, I see your posts. There's a big difference in black people watching all this and white people. I can see it in my own household because I have a white partner. The shock and outrage in white people's eyes. And it's not that I'm not shocked and outraged. Well, actually, no, I'm not shocked. I'm continually outraged. I feel like a lot of black life is just like living with rage. A rage of not being truly free, of not being equal, of not being considered a human. If other people are being protected where you are not, and the only difference is the color of their skin, there's just this constant rage within you all your life. That I think a lot of black people don't even know is there. My white liberal fucking Michelle Obama loving friends, y'all should be the ones out there. I'm not saying black people don't go out in the streets, but it should be you guys first. Like, y'all should be out there. It should be y'all out there. You know, like, let us breathe. And I think that's what a lot of this week is going to be about. People being able to breathe and having a space to share these stories without feeling like someone's going to dismiss you or call you crazy or say, that's not because you're black, it's because of this, or nah, it couldn't be that. Like, that is so frustrating. Frustrating doesn't even cut it. It's disgusting, it's dirty, it's wrong. Just because it's the way it is doesn't mean it's any sort of right. So I think this week's gonna be a lot of people purging these things. Not purging, but putting them on someone else's shoulders. You know, putting them on y'all's shoulders. White people, putting them on y'all's shoulders right now because there's only so much sitting there waiting with shit on your back that you can do. Sitting there waiting and saying, God's got me, or what the fuck ever. Like, there's only so much of that you can do before you see yourself as something lesser. You see yourself as something separate. It doesn't even have to be lesser, but you see yourself as something separate. Someone either above or below the law. I encourage you to listen to all the black stories you can. The more data you have, the better you are. I really think that's one of the reasons. I'm gonna fucking brag on myself for a second because I think it's one of the reasons why people see me as such a level-headed, open-minded, kind person. Going back to my like military brat, non-military brat upbringing of just like seeing so many people in so many different situations and how the environment you're in, the way you're treated can vary differently from where you are and who you are and what you look like. And I've seen how petty and unimportant the actual reasons people give for putting themselves above others is. No, it's not the time for that. It's not the time for that. Anyone calling that out, I'm like, shut the fuck up, sit down. Like, sit down, what are you doing? Like, calling attention to other things? Like, what are you doing? Unless those other things have been systematically beaten, murdered, raped, lynched, scammed, pushed out, like, unless you're talking about something that's had a systematic aggressor, then shut the fuck up. Like, shut up. Go fucking start a blog, write that shit out, and then, like, let it create thoughts, dude. Like, come on, man. Read the room. Read the whole room. For those of you who follow me on YouTube, I will be posting versions of this there, probably in a little more edited version. So yeah, throughout the week, I'm just going to be going through some of the experiences in my life, which include the first time I got in trouble at school, which had to do with racism. One of my first play dates that I realized was not a play date. A day in high school where I had to watch over 200 white kids do their best black person impression for a little thing called Dre Day. We're also gonna be talking about family members and the difference in like girls and boys. How we're gonna talk about black men specifically and how there's a definite like The definite low man on the totem pole is the black man. If I had a nickel for every time my dad got pulled over for no fucking reason, I would have at least 60 cents, which is too much. This started a long time ago. So we need to look at all of that. We need to consider reparations. We need to consider pulling mass amounts of public figures from their position. Ones who have well-documented bigotry on their record. We need to do that in mass because we need to make people afraid to be racist. We need to make people as afraid to be racist as we are of having racism put upon us, which is very, very afraid and common. So I don't want to shove anything down anyone's throats. These are just my experiences, and I think that it's important for my micro network, my microcosm of people to hear this. Because I do get like, you're not black, from my fucking friends. Like, all my life I've gotten that. And what they don't understand is when they say that, they think they're separating me from my culture. Right? They're saying, you don't talk black, you don't dress black, you don't have a crew. I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know what you think it means to be black. But what you don't realize is you're separating me from the bad stuff. Because to be black matters the most when it's hurting you, you know? To be black is, I just am black. I'm black. I love it. It's great. It's literally the best thing to be. We get our skin tanned. We get our asses injected. We get our lip fillers. Like, everybody wants to be us. That goes without saying. I love being black. But the part that you're separating me from is like, when I'm alone, out in a small town somewhere, and someone calls me a like, that's what you're separating me from. And so your empathy is like, you're prioritizing your empathy, and it's fucked up. Like, stop doing that. Speaking of that, we're gonna have a whole section about white privilege, because y'all, I got the inside scoop on that. I really do. I have a lot to say about that. I think that might be where my power is. Fucking talking about white privilege and how I've seen it affect life. My life, white people I know's life, black people I know's life, and how it's really dangerous. And how it's coming from places you don't think. I should probably end here. This is getting quite long. I wanted it to be a short video. If you want to follow me on my journey, I'm Keela.exe on Instagram, Keela Sanders on YouTube. I'll put a link in my bio, I guess. It's a good thing the revolution is televised.